Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. I gotta tell you, welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1233 with a fried brain. Well, actually, I got brain fried written up. Whatever way you put it, my frame is bride. My brain is fried. It has been, I tell you, this week is a tough week with with our genealogy. It is fascinating, but there is so much material. And tonight we had our one and only live class session on Zoom, and somebody mentioned about how much material there was this week to get through. And the facilitator for this week, because we had one team of instructors and facilitators for the first 4 weeks. The last 2 weeks we've had a different team, and this is our final team. So we got the instructor for this week to finally admit that, this is actually a 2-week class that we're doing in a week. Because I thought I was doing great. I got the first 2 chapters read. I then went on to the next page, and it said, before you read what is below, please go read chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm like, what? So I pulled out my little book. I had a look. Chapter 3 starts on page 36. Oh, sorry, chapter 4. 4, 5, and 6 is what we had to do with it. Yeah. Chapter 4 starts on page 52. Chapter 7 ends on page 150. So we got basically 100 pages. This is it here. This is this piece here that we had to read before tonight. Oh, but then, wait, because we were supposed to have lesson 1 completed by the end of tonight. This is to keep on track to get everything done by Monday, which also meant you then had to go read chapter 3. Well, chapter 3 starts on page 56. Chapter 7 finishes on page 36 for chapter 3. Chapter 7 ends on page 150. Hey, Zeffy girl. Then you're thinking that, so I'm looking ahead, and then you've got to go and read chapter 9, which is, how many pages is chapter 9, Zeph? That's a really cool one. It's all the ethnicities thingies, which ends on page, so what did I say? It starts on page 172 and goes to page 193. We had to have all of that read by tonight, along with having all of lesson 1 completed, which includes videos, articles to read, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm like, that would take me a week just to do all of that. And then the second lesson would take the second week. And that's basically what they've done. They've taken this 2-week class and they've crammed it into a 1-week session. And so I am not the only one struggling with this. So that is definitely going to go in any course review about that. So yes, we're definitely going to go into the course when we do the course review. We're definitely mentioning the fact that the genetic genealogy portion absolutely, most definitely needs to be split into 2 weeks. But because of the way they structure the classes between the genealogical principles and the certificate in genealogy, the way they structure those classes, they don't have time to have an extra week on this class. So I have tomorrow morning blocked off. Although tomorrow morning I am going to go and get my mail, because I just got messages today that I have 2 more parcels there, which I think I'm up to like 8 or 9 parcels waiting for me at the mailbox, plus whatever's in my mailbox as well. So I'm going to run out tomorrow morning as close to 8 a.m. as I can, because that's when they're open, and get in there really quick and get all my stuff out of there and get back here as quick as possible. So, and then I have other work to do, but I basically got any spare hours tomorrow are blocked off, all day Saturday's blocked off, all day Sunday's blocked off to get this thing done. But I have started working on my short answer questions for the final. What's the matter, Zeph? Come on. Oh, you're looking for your TREATs. You just have to wait. She's like, okay, come here. Come on, you can come up and get some here. Let's give you some. So I give her, what are these? Training reward treats. These are beef flavored, and they have no corn, no BHA, no BHTF, or artificial flavors. I got no idea what BHT is or BHA, but I know it's bad stuff. Miracle on 34th Street. Yes, that is going to get watched on Monday night I think. It's definitely on the list, Bill. So Bill's just put their Miracle on 34th Street because I'm still asking for things. But which version do you like, Bill? Do you like the 1940 whatever it is version or the later version? The black and white or the colored version? Which one do you like? I can't find my notes to tell you what year the first one was. I like the one from 1942. Good girl. Anyway, so yeah, we've got time blocked off to get all this done, but I have been working on my short answers and getting them all written in as I come along. As I come across the answers, I have a Word document open, so as I'm reading and I come across what that question covers, then I'm going in and answering the questions. So we may get that submitted well before Monday. But my goal is to have it finished at least by Saturday, so I can have Sunday off and recover. And then do this and then submit on Monday morning. But because it's short answers, it's going to take me a little longer to grade the course, which is going to be a bit of a bummer, but that's just the way it goes. But there's 20 short answer questions, 20. And I still have 2 discussions to do as well. You going to shake? Shake? Good girl. Can you sit pretty? Sit pretty. Sit pretty. Oh, good girl. You're cheating with your front paws on the table, but that's okay. I didn't want you falling off the bench. What are we talking about? DNA. But it's fascinating because in the class we had tonight basically sums up the entire lesson 1 and basically gives you all the answers. All the answers for most of the short answer questions are listed in the online course we did tonight. And so I was just curious. I was taking notes and all of that. And yeah, we're going to get some more. We're going to work on some short answers tonight and then verify them tomorrow morning. But I am going to be so glad when Monday comes and that final assessment has been. I'm going to be so happy when that final assessment has been submitted and all 3 discussion questions are done, because that means I am done with this class. And yeah, there's been some weeks where I've missed some of the questions, but that's probably because I was doing it too late at night and my brain was fried. It's all my own fault. And I hate it when they turn around and say, ask the question and then go, what is it? Pick out the answers, Bill, or check all that apply. Like they ask a question and they go, check all that apply. I hate those questions because then I sit there and I go, well, are they really going for all 5 answers? Is it really like, all of the above? And you go through each one and then it's sort of like, okay, what's the actual question they're asking? Look for those little key words. They're talking about this standard. Okay, so you go to that standard in the standards book here. We get this thing out and we have a look in here, and I'm like sitting there with it open and I'm going through and I'm going, okay, yes, that's on there. Okay, so we can check that box. Yes, that one's on there. We can check that box. Don't see that one, then we won't check that box. And then when you get the answers back, I got it wrong because I didn't check that box. I hate those questions. Check all that apply. Do you high five? Oh, good girl. It was a bit of a sloppy one, but we'll give you that. You're in a tight space. And you can't do it head on. Yeah. She's like, you got something in your hand. But, come here. Good girl. Good girl. You going to say hi to everybody? We went for a big walk tonight. Did we go for a big walk? Yeah. Did you take us all around the park tonight? We did the perimeter of the pet area tonight, didn't we? Yeah. Oh, I love you too. Okay, get down. Good girl. No, not that far. You can stay there. Okay, off you go. Oh, you're done with those now. Yep, no more. So yes, so class is almost finished. It's a struggle, but it's very, very interesting learning about which markers you're looking for when you do the DNA testing, what markers you should be looking for to help you determine this, that, and the other thing. And the ethnicity thing is very interesting as well. It's all really, really interesting, but there's a lot of detail. And so I'm going to get through this as best I can, but then I'm also going to go back at some point and read I'm going to go through this as best I can now, and then go back and read it more in detail, because there's a lot of like charts you got to look at. But what was interesting, this one was very, very interesting, because we get 50% of DNA from 50% of our DNA from our mother, 50% from our father. If you have a sibling, they also get 50% from the mother and 50% from the father. But there's an overlap. So when you're looking at DNA and you've got siblings involved, the more DNA you can, the more siblings you have, and the more of them that can take the test, the better. Because as you go down generations, you're losing traces of DNA with each generation. But if you've got a lot of siblings and they all do the DNA test, you can actually gain back some of those genetic markers. Because when you look at the, let's see if I can quickly find it. When you're looking at the DNA, it shows you in here, and they have this really cool graph about it too. Yes, you could probably do it with doggy DNA too, Zeffy. Where they showed how this is all the DNA that you get from one parent. This is all the DNA your sibling gets from a parent. And this is how you, and there will be some overlap. And I thought, oh, here it is. So what this shows is the pink circle here is the DNA, is the mother's side. The blue is the father's side. So you've got two siblings. You've got this orange one here on the father's side and the orange one from the mother's side. That's the 50% DNA from dad, 50% DNA from mum. Then you've got the sibling, which is 50% DNA from dad, 50% DNA from mum. There's this little overlap piece in the middle here. And what this little overlap piece does is that when you're looking at DNA matches, you will have some matches that are the same as each other. So you're both showing matches to different to relatives and things. But then there'll be some relatives that you have a match with, but your sibling does not, because it falls into these other areas. Oh, that's so cool. And then I suddenly thought, oh, actually I had this happen to me, because I had a guy who found me through the DNA matching. He's in Canada. He's part of this. There's a last name in my family that somebody's doing a one name research on. And the one name research is anybody with that last name and variants of spelling. They're studying that family and trying to put the whole family tree together based on this one last name. As soon as the name changes, they stop searching any further and they go back and look for another one and continue. And this guy's been spending years doing research on this, and he's done a phenomenal job. And he got down to close to where I was, but he didn't have my second great grandmother in there, her maiden name was this last name. And so I contacted him and said, hey, I see you've got this far in the tree, but you don't have my second great grandmother on there. And he goes, well, who's your second great grandmother? So I told him, and he goes, well, how does she fit in the tree? So I told him that, and he goes, you're the missing link there. And he says, and then and so he has in his records how it gets down to me, and how I'm connected, because if anybody wants to join his Facebook group for this one name, you have to show how you're related. So this guy reaches out to me, and he happens to have a relation that's in this big one name family tree. And we're trying to figure out the connection. And so he tells me who his great grandmother was. So I go and look in my tree and found her. And I turn it, and so we got down to his details where he was. And then when you're in Ancestry, it does a really cool thing for the home person only. They used to have relationship calculators in there. I don't know why they took that tool out, but you could turn around and say, I want to know how this person and this person are related. And it will tell you. Now it just goes on the home person, and I'm listed as the home person on my tree. And it showed that he was my seventh cousin, no removes, no nothing. And so he's sort of like, oh, that's really cool. So I told him about this one name group. We got him into the Facebook group. And Rich did his stuff in there and found out where he was in the tree and and then admitted him into the group. And then like a couple of weeks later, Rich introduces everybody to these other two people. Now, the guy I was connected with is in Canada. The other two people are both in Wales, and they're first cousins. So the two Welsh people were first cousins, a guy and a woman, and they come into the group, and he turns around and Rich announces that they're related to this particular person. And I suddenly went, well, hang on. My guy in Canada must be related to you guys as well. And it turned out that my seventh cousin was their first cousin once removed, which means he's here and they're on this line. Or was it the other way around? No, because they were my seventh, because by the time I found out where they were in the tree and got them into my tree, it came up and said seventh cousin once removed. So he got to meet, and they're both in Wales, so he got to meet first cousins once removed. He didn't know, the three of them didn't know anything about, like the two Welsh one didn't know about Canada didn't know about the Welsh one. So they were able to meet and talk, and they were able to find out which grandmother they had in common and start telling stories and figuring out things and learning more about this person, because she actually went and changed her name and nobody knows why. So there's a little question mark over what her actual name really was, or why she changed it. So there's all these little stories going around. So they're busy swapping stories. But what was interesting is that I had a DNA match with the seventh cousin. I had a DNA match with one of the Welsh cousins, but not the other one. And the guy in Canada had a DNA match with the one I did not, the Welsh cousin I didn't have a DNA match with, but he had a connection with, no, hang on, sorry, how did it go? I don't remember how this went. So we had Welsh cousin 1 and Welsh cousin 2, and Welsh cousin 1 had a DNA connection with the guy in Canada, but not with Welsh cousin 2. See, it's that little circle thing is coming into play. I had a DNA connection with Welsh cousin number 2, the guy in Canada, but not with Welsh cousin number 1. So it just shows how the DNA, but I'm sort of like, but hang on, these guys are seventh cousins. How is that even possible? But it's possible. And so it's kind of interesting. I've been learning how this all works and seeing that, Zeffy, please. And seeing that chart that with the mother's DNA and the father's DNA and how it's split between the siblings and how you can actually be DNA matches for other cousins. One of you can be DNA matches for cousins and the other one could be DNA matches for different cousins, and you'll have an area where that overlaps as well. So that was really cool to learn that, because it then made so much more sense. It's like, yeah, because you don't get the same. What was funny is my mum said to me one time when I found out my aunt had been on there, she turns around and she goes, oh, well, I'll just have a look at hers because it'll be the same as mine. I'm like, no, Mum, it won't be. It'll be completely different. So now I can go back and let her know that, oh, she bought me a Christmas poop. This was from her bark box. She's got 3 Christmas poops. These are just like piles of poop stuffed toys. Squeaky, noisy. And that's the Christmas tree one. She has a peppermint one, and I think the other one's like a snowman. But anyway, so yeah, so my mother says, I'll just go off my sister's, and I'm sort of like, because it'll be the same. I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, I don't think so, Mum. But now I can go back to her and say, hey, Mum, you know how you said that? And I said, she can't do that because your DNA, you're going to have connections to some cousins that my aunt won't, that your sister won't have connections to. And you'll have some area of overlap, but you'll also have, because of the DNA you get from your parents. So keep that in mind when you're doing DNA. And so when you're doing DNA testing, if you can get siblings to do it as well, you'll find cousins in there that you won't have a connection to, but they do. And you'll also find the overlap areas as well. So it's been really interesting learning these and the different types of DNA testings, but I'm going to save that one for another night because I'm exhausted. I need food. I'm going to go get dinner. So tune in tomorrow night and we'll talk about the different types of DNA testing that they do and what they can reveal, because I have to go write what each testing, what tests males can do and why, and what tests females can do and why. And I also I've already listed the top 4, the 4 DNA testing that you can have done. So we shall talk about that more tomorrow night, unless I learn something really exciting between now and then. Anyway, go have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening around 6 p.m. Pacific time. Hei konara.